When Emily graduated from university and got a job at a reputable firm, her parents gave her a new apartment in a newly built complex. It was around that time that Emily met Daniel. She was rushing home from the supermarket with a bag full of fruit when the handle broke and the whole thing rolled down the sidewalk. Embarrassed and confused, she froze. But then a blonde-haired young man appeared out of nowhere and quickly gathered her groceries into another bag. Grateful and cheerful, Emily gave him her phone number. Their chance encounter soon developed into sympathy, and sympathy into deep, sincere love. Emily introduced Daniel to her family, but Daniel was hesitant to introduce Emily to his, fearing that the chaotic environment and deep-seated family conflicts might overwhelm her and possibly hinder their budding relationship. Eventually, he revealed his background. He was the eldest of 4 children, 2 brothers, Peter and Alex, and a younger sister, Sarah. They all lived in a small village. Their father worked in the fields and their mother was a store owner. When Daniel grew up, he had the responsibility of taking care of his siblings while their parents worked long hours. After graduating from high school, he went into the army, and when he returned, he decided to stay in the city rather than return to the village. He often spoke of his desire to build a life independent of his family's difficulties, though it was obvious that his devotion to them ran very deep. Despite his attempts to create distance, Daniel often sent money to support his siblings and frequently checked on his parents to make sure they were coping. His actions showed a quiet, unwavering devotion to their well-being, even as he sought to forge his own path. Despite his reluctance, Daniel eventually agreed to introduce Emily to his family. They prepared diligently for the visit, bringing many gifts and treats. The family home was modest but neat, with intricate wooden shutters. It was noisy inside. Daniel's brothers lived there with their wives and Sarah, recently divorced, with her 3 small children. The house was chaotic, and Emily felt overwhelmed by the constant chatter, the shrill laughter of the children, and their irrepressible energy. She tried to maintain a polite smile as she clutched her purse tightly, trying to create a sense of personal space in the crowded room. Thoughts raced through her mind. Why didn't Daniel warn me that this was how it was going to be? How can I stay calm? She reminded herself to focus on Daniel's calming presence, even though her instincts were screaming to escape this chaos. At some point, she took deep breaths to calm herself and reminded herself to focus on Daniel's calming presence amidst the chaos. She felt annoyance as they rummaged through her purse, tearing it apart in their playful frenzy, leaving her feeling invaded and helpless. Daniel's mother, Martha, had laughingly brushed it all off, saying that children could be forgiven anything. Emily noticed how the dynamics of family life revolved around Martha's control and the siblings' unspoken rivalry for her approval. Peter and Alex often sought praise by recounting their minor accomplishments in front of her, while Sarah sought favor by exaggerating her difficulties. Martha's subtle criticism and occasional displays of favoritism kept everyone on edge, making Emily realize how deeply entrenched this dynamic was in their relationship. Daniel's reticence about getting to know her was beginning to make sense. Throughout the day, Emily watched Sarah's children make a mess of things while the adults turned a blind eye, which added to her anxiety. When it came time for the wedding, most of Daniel's relatives came to town and were overwhelmed by Emily's spacious apartment. Martha, in particular, couldn't stop praising it. However, there was a note of envy in her comments that Emily couldn't ignore. "Everything here is too perfect," Martha said, lingering her gaze on the smooth countertops. "I can't imagine how someone can keep such a large apartment in such condition. It must be nice to have so much space to yourself." 2 weeks after the wedding, Daniel was away on a business trip, and Emily was alone when Martha and Sarah showed up unannounced. Martha said, "Emily, family means supporting each other in times of need, always finding a way to help when it's important. We should always support each other," and turned the conversation to her true intentions. Then she made her point. Sarah and her children needed a place to stay, and Emily's apartment seemed like the perfect solution. Shocked, Emily asked if Daniel had known about the plan. Martha claimed that he'd approved it, though Emily doubted her sincerity. Trying to maintain her composure, Emily firmly stated that the apartment belonged to her, and she didn't want to share it. The confrontation escalated, with Martha accusing Emily of selfishness and threatening consequences. After they left, Emily decided to change the locks and disable the doorbell. The next morning, Emily found Sarah and her children waiting outside with their belongings. When Daniel arrived and saw the scene, he resolutely sided with Emily and told his family that they needed to leave. He reminded his mother of his sacrifices as a child and his decision to build a life away from the village chaos. Emily, though relieved, was deeply shocked at how easily boundaries could be broken. Although the situation was diffused for a while, it was not the end of the drama. During a New Year's Eve visit, Sarah made a barbed remark about the store-bought dishes Emily had included in the holiday feast. Martha pulled Sarah aside and scolded her, reminding her to be polite if they wanted to win Emily's favor. The visit ended with Martha pressing Daniel to support Sarah financially, but he adamantly refused. Daniel's frustration over his family's ineligibility for support grew, leading to a heated discussion with Emily about how best to conduct themselves in the future. A few weeks later, Emily and Daniel went on vacation, leaving a neighbor, Mrs. Nina, to look after their cat Snowball. Seizing the opportunity, Martha and Sarah made up a story that they needed to pick up some urgent documents from the apartment, emphasizing the supposed urgency and their kinship with Nina. Though initially hesitant, Nina was swayed by the insistence that Emily and Daniel were fully aware of the situation. Feeling conflicted but trusting their sincerity, she reluctantly handed over the keys. Their persuasive demeanor and earnest pleas made Nina reluctant to hand over the keys. When Emily and Daniel returned, they found their home taken over by Sarah's family and the furniture rearranged to accommodate them. The final straw was when Emily learned that Sarah had kicked Snowball out, finding him annoying. Luckily, Mrs. Nina had taken the cat in. Daniel quickly took action. He hired movers to move Sarah's belongings out and escorted the family out. That same evening, Sarah returned with a peace offering, a small cake, which Emily accepted reluctantly. Later that evening, Emily became ill and was rushed to the hospital. Tests revealed that she had been poisoned. Suspicion fell on Sarah, who had dabbled in herbs and homemade potions in the past. When questioned by the police, Sarah admitted to putting the poisonous plant extract in the cake, citing a growing resentment towards Emily for seeing her as a favorite and an exception. She explained that Emily's new role in Daniel's life seemed like a threat to her own bond with her brother. Sarah believed that Emily's obvious perfection and the attention she'd attracted from her family had left no room for her difficulties to be recognized, fueling a toxic mix of envy and despair. Her voice fluctuated between guilt and defiance, displaying a mixture of despair and misplaced justification for her actions. The ordeal exacerbated Daniel's relationship with his family. Sarah was sentenced to prison for attempted murder, and Daniel cut ties with his relatives. He and Emily decided to move, settling abroad where they could rebuild their lives in peace. The new city offered a fresh start, and the couple jumped at the chance to create a life free from the shadow of family interference. Emily made a full recovery, and their new chapter began with hope, a newfound gratitude for their connection, and a determination to put their happiness first.